considering going out for RFP for depository contract or extending our current depository contract for 2 years. Is there a motion?
Make a motion, we extend it to current.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carried. And the vote sheet. All right. Then, item number 10 is the county COVID policy.
You have a copy of,
Let's see. We have a copy of one from Erath County and Lee County. If we'll review those, then we can make any,
we didn't have it in here.
oh, you didn't? We'll get some made real quick. All right, yeah.
You got it?
You didn't have one under number
I got
2?
this out of my box.
Oh, okay, let me make
Oh,
a
I
couple
bet it was in
copies.
there. Did you get yours?
I got mine there in the bed. Just take it back in the hall.
Craig, that's.
Yeah, he was at the old table.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Thank you. Like that John Deere place. You don't want to look at it, sir.
You didn't have those yours.
Yeah, we haven't been able to type it. Probably. He gave permission to stop sign. Head across the street.
I'll pass you that in a minute. Sorry. All right.
Yes.
The one from Erath County. I need a few minutes to read these.
You can't put an 8 limit on any limit.
Well, I think in the,
Not so good.
no, that's not, I think in the, a lot of the CDC stuff that's coming out, it does have ages in there. Because those were determined to be the most, susceptible, I guess you'd say, to the COVID. Or that are more at risk, I guess would be the way to say that, more at risk if you're over that age, or if you have a chronic disease. So based on getting it from the CDC, we could check to be sure, but I think based on that, because it fits their criteria, not the criteria that we had, but the criteria from CDC as being most at risk. And on the ERAF one, it does say if you are age 60 and you have a chronic disease, which is listed, or if you're not over age 60 but you have a chronic disease as those listed, and or your healthcare providers directed you to request alternatives to your current work location, then they would be exempt from being at work. Doesn't say they're exempt from working, but from being at work. And that would be when you would have them working at home. And that would be monitored, all of that would be monitored by the elected official or department head. And then the other alternative is, if you don't have those, then it is up to the elected official or department head to determine the validity of the reason for the emergency paid administrative leave. If an employee displays symptoms, then they must seek medical attention and stay home for up to 14 days before returning to work.
Now, Judge, one of the things that I wanted to point out when I got these off of the listserv and talked to them, the Erath County one was done during the FFCRA, so it is a little old. So now that guidelines have changed, the county can change that to whatever. And then the one that was Lee County was done once the expiration was taking place.
But there again, you know, December 31st of 2020, it actually expires, so this is just extending that.
Yes, the county deciding to extend something.
Yes, if we wanted to extend it that way and it be, they extended a portion of the act, but not all of it.
The Lee County is a lot better,
Yeah,
because
I think so.
the ERAT, you can tell is way older,
Yeah,
and for 14 consecutive days before returning to work.
Yeah.
The CDC doesn't even stretch it out that far now.
not now, they don't. But those are, you know, if we decided to go with something a little more open, then we could, you know, we could change some of those. But this one from Lee County is basically set up in the same, for the same guidelines as the CDC had. Well, actually the FFCRA or the Act had that was in effect till December 31st. And it does limit it to the 80 hours. And there again, you know, that's something that we can talk about, but you know, they, up till December 31st, they did have a limitation on how many hours you could get. And this has 80 hours for admin time. Full-time employees may be eligible for up to 80 hours of COVID sick pay. If you, employees that have already utilized all of the CARES Act COVID leave prior to January 1st, you're not getting any additional COVID leave, and any leave would be accrued, and for anybody that already used their any leave would be accrued sick leave or other accrued leave. These employees, those employees that have already started to use initial COVID-19 from the CARES Act will be eligible to use the balance they have remaining. Do you want to,
I think the main thing is on the qualified reasons. When you get right here,
in order to receive the COVID sick pay above, the employee must provide a written medical document from a physician to the Lee County Treasurer's Office. It will need to indicate the reason for COVID-19 sick leave. This document Anyway, you know, we've talked about not being able to require someone to have a medical documentation, and I don't know that we still can require them, but if they want to take advantage of the policy, I think we can require them, if they want to take advantage of the policy. And if they don't want to take advantage of the policy, I don't know that we can require them to go be tested or whatever, but to comply, or to take this benefit, you can have restrictions. Isn't that the way y'all understand that?
Yes.
Is this more what you want, or do you want to think about this and see if you want to revise some of this? Or do you know right now what you want to revise?
Well, it's just like that last paragraph. I mean, I think that's something that we should have in our policy. Means that expired on December 31st. You've got that paragraph and that paragraph, that's.
Well, it expired on December 31st, but they're extending it and including a portion of what was in it, in this policy. We don't have to do that, but that's what they've done, is,
This one says they have to have a negative test before they can return.
there
I
it is.
don't agree with that paragraph.
We can mark that out.
Yeah. There's a paragraph below that kind of gets you past that. Basically, if a person's been reduced symptoms, been fever-free for a minimum of 24 hours, then he can go back to work.
If you quarantine for 10 days, starting from the infectious period date, the date you first had a symptom or positive test, whichever's first, the person has reduced symptoms and been fever-free for a minimum of 24 hours prior to return. But that's after testing positive. You quarantine for 10 days, but your 10 days starts from the date the infectious period started, your first symptoms. Been free of fever for 24 hours.
I know there was something, I think there was something in there too, about 7 days. You know, if you're around somebody that was,
That's on the back.
okay, yes, yeah. That's,
After close contact with an individual with confirmed or probable,
yeah.
how do you have a probable?
You
If it
got
wasn't
or you don't.
confirmed.
Supposedly less than 6 feet for more than 15 minutes. It's,
Well, that's the contact.
Yeah,
That's the close contact definition. And that is with an individual that was confirmed or probable.
well, we can leave the problem out.
We make probable out.
I think what they're saying on that is, someone has said, I had COVID, or I was around somebody that had COVID, but you can't confirm that it's COVID. I think that's what I
read it
Oh, I'm
back.
sorry, pass that over.
Well, the backside is a lot more understandable to me.
It is.
It explains more, either your 10 days, your 7 days, or.
Yeah.
If we took that one and just scratched out what we didn't like,
Yeah.
and then left the rest, I mean, could we say that what's left in there would be a starting point, and then if we needed to amend it after that, we could?
Sure, sure. You want to read that, or you want me to read it? Okay. After close contact, which is defined as being within 6 feet for 15 minutes or more, is a close contact with an individual with confirmed, I'm gonna take that or probable, don't you think? Take that out. And just say, with confirmed COVID-19 and the employee has not tested positive on a COVID test, then day 10 after close contact, and this is without them having tested. Well, there again, that's the probable thing. 10 days after close contact exposure with a person this is without COVID testing for the individual that we're like, all right, if I was within close contact with an individual with confirmed COVID, and the employee has not tested positive on a COVID test, 10 days after close contact exposure with a COVID-19 tested and the person is symptom-free, then you could return to work. Or day 7 after close contact exposure, symptom-free and have a negative. So if you have a negative test, you can come back after 7 days. If you don't, then it's 10 days.
Now, that's without being tested?
The 10 days on this one, yes.
I personally think you ought to be tested if you're gonna use the policy. That's my take on it. I think you're gonna use the policy for this county, and you gotta be tested. You're either positive or you're negative. So you're either gonna be out or you're not. Makes it pretty simple.
But they say that you need to wait 5 days before you get tested.
Right. Yeah.
I picture that back page being, I mean, I think we've all unfortunately dealt with it. I know I have, deal with a spouse. I think that's where that comes, to me, that's where practically that comes in, right? Your spouse has it, you're feeling perfectly fine. Obviously, you live with your spouse, you're around them, you have close contact. You know, how do we handle that? And so that's what I picture that being. Obviously, you can have close contact with many different people, but I know for a lot of us, again, me included, it came more up with your spouse, because you know, you have to be careful with that as you get back to work. So anyway, I know that's kind of what we're thinking, but that's what I picture that back page being, kind of a family member contact is probably how practically it'll come up.
And this does say, day 7 after close contact exposure, you're symptom-free and you have a negative COVID test result for a COVID test performed no earlier than 5 days after the close contact, then you can return.
But if you don't get tested, then you can just take advantage of it and be out the whole entire time.
And be out more.
You see what I'm saying? I got used to enough people as it is.
Well, if you look at the Erath County one, the one thing about it is it gives the elected official or department head a little bit more to determine if that person, because if they don't have symptoms, and it's been 5 days and they don't have symptoms, and they're just trying to milk it, not come back to work, if you ask them if they have any symptoms and they say no, you can say go get tested, and if you test negative, you're coming back to work. Because just like on this
Well, I don't know if we can, I don't think we can make them get tested.
Maybe we can take that first one off.
but it's like this.
The thing with this is you're giving time, this isn't an act or a rule that, because that expired and they haven't extended it, so this is time the county's given, so I think you can probably set whatever rules you want, that like our policy says, if you miss more than 2 sick days, you have to bring a doctor's note. So
Right.
y'all, this is the same as that, y'all can set
We can do it until
whatever
somebody
you
refuses
feel.
to go get it.
I was
And
told
then they
last
won't be
week,
under the policy and they'll just use their sick leave.
It's all about to keep people from abusing
Yeah.
a privilege, you know?
I was told last week, if you were symptom-free without medication for 3 days, you could return to work.
3 days?
If you were,
Symptom-free.
if you thought you were through with it, I mean, you've been home, if you thought you were through with it, without medication, no fever, no symptom, of course, you could have a runny nose, I guess, I mean, everybody got that. For 3 days, you can come back to work. I think that was a CDC deal at one time.
They change so much, it's hard to keep up. Then
Every week.
there's another one under here that day 14 from close contact exposure, I guess when you do nothing, then you can come back.
Let's scratch that one.
I would scratch that one and this top one and just say day 7, and the employee has not tested positive, then day 7 after close contact exposure, symptom-free, and have negative COVID test result, perform no earlier than 5 days after the close contact exposure. But you have to have a negative COVID test.
This also says the leave benefit does not include closure of schools and or daycare. Does that mean that you, just because your kids are out of school, you need to go home and homeschool? That does not involve this?
That's correct. This agency did not, off of the FFCRA, they didn't keep that part, so it does not include any of the school or daycare. It's,
Now, on the first page at the bottom, after testing positive for COVID-19, the person is quarantined for 10 days, starting from the infectious period date. That'll be the date of the first symptom of positive test. And the person has reduced symptoms and been fever-free for 24 hours, then they can return to work after 10 days.
Judge Grant, on the 7th day, if they've been exposed, and then after the 7th day, and the employee does not want, I mean, because some people you hear, they don't want to go get tested, they don't go get tested, but then they would have to use their sick time, their own sick time. Is that how that would work? I mean, if they didn't want to do the COVID test?
If that's what it ends up being, yeah.
Right.
I think if you've got county insurance and you care at all about the people you're gonna be going back to work to, you shouldn't have a problem going to get a little.
Oh, I agree with you. I do agree with you. Mhm.
But if they choose to take sick leave and not do that, well, then they certainly can do that.
Because then it times out, they're people free and no doubt for that.
I like that one sentence right there on the second paragraph, the last sentence says it will be determined by the elected official or department head on a case-by-case situation.
Is that on the ERAF?
That's on ERAF.
ERAF, yeah.
ERAF.
The first paragraph of ERAF really doesn't work for everybody, because that doesn't work for a road and bridge employee. That's more for office personnel.
Right.
and under the FFCRA, it also, when it was still in existence, it said that, you know, it was kind of under a doctor's care. So whether you were waiting to go get tested, or if you had went and got tested, as long as the doctor's care. So if y'all chose to, y'all could even put something in there saying, you know, if the doctor says you're out through a such and such date or something, so that way it comes back more on the physician. If the physician says you come back to work, you come back to work. If you, physician says you need to be off through a certain date because that's the recommendation of the CDC, then that's up to y'all. I'm just throwing that out there.
So can you get just regular sick anymore?
Yeah, everything gets COVID anymore. Get an arrow through your head.
We still have our sick time.
If he could, I think everybody
That's
knows.
the sad thing about it.
14 days.
Every time I feel it gets a little sore, I start thinking, oh my.
But I mean,
Okay, at the bottom, requiring a negative test result before returning to work. It was revised it was revised such that an elected official, department or employee with confirmed think that probably is not good. Who has been exposed to a person with confirmed may not come to or remain at work until after testing positive, then the person quarantines 10 days and must be symptom-free and must have fever for a minimum of 24 hours prior to returning, or just after close contact, then it's those three on the back. All right, I guess the main thing is, looking at the Lee County, the paragraph, are we limiting it to the 80 hours of COVID sick pay, which is what the CDC originally had?
That's 2 weeks,
Mhm.
I would say so.
Mr. Roach, do you want this back?
Sure.
In this paragraph right here where it says that,
Mhm.
to receive the COVID sick pay, employee must provide a written medical document from a physician to the treasurer's office. If we use that line, and then if they don't, then this will be determined by the elected official or department head on a case-by-case situation. But if they don't bring anything from the doctor.
Well, or we could say, written medical document from physician, or proof of COVID test positive, because they may not go to the doctor. Or proof of positive COVID test, and if that. Okay, right under where this, on the second one, down here, where it says, the Commissioners Court also revised, the COVID return to work testing that was adopted that required having a negative test result before returning to work. I think we can take that out because that doesn't apply to us. We hadn't had the policy before.
That whole thing,
Mhm.
that's the whole thing.
An elected official, this would start with if an elected official, department head, or employee with confirmed, take out the problem, with confirmed COVID-19 or who has been exposed to a person with confirmed COVID-19 may not come to or remain at work until one of the next, after testing positive, the person quarantines for 10 days and doesn't have fever for 24, or on the back, after close contact, the one without, or we're gonna take out the 10-day, the one without testing, and say 7 days after close contact, symptom-free, and have a COVID negative before they can come back.
Yeah, I think it's enough.
Just take these two out and leave that number 7 day. And take out just be off for 14 with no test.
You wanna be off 14, you wanna be off 10. CDC
Taking
says-
that
Taking the 14 out.
Taking the 14
Taking the
out.
14 out. Not, you can't just take 14 days because you think you have COVID.
Right.
Do you want me to revise this and we'll look at it again, or is,
What do you mind?
how about if we revise it according to what we're talking about right
That
now.
number 10 is consecutive calendar days instead of 8 hours. It's on the, I'm still on the email,
Okay, go back.
third paragraph. Staying home up to 10 consecutive calendar days
Well,
before returning
Look
to work.
at that, pass that over, that number, that 7-day thing right there, day 7. And if they still test positive, then they're gonna have to go ahead until they test negative, I guess. If after that time they test positive, then you'd need a negative test before you come back.
See, when I got out, I didn't need a negative, he told me I didn't need a negative test.
Kim?
Yeah, the CDC changed it now, if you're symptom-free,
You know,
no fever, 24 hours a day, you're not supposed to have a test to come back.
Right.
But that's the difference in what they're allowed and trying to make a policy that nobody's taking advantage of. That's why it's
Well,
almost
they're
like
allowing,
10%.
but if you wanna comply with this and get that, add that COVID time off, then you have to comply with this. Otherwise, you can just take sick time and be.
Take your own time.
So if you go, like say you go to the doctor because you have what you think's a sinus infection, and they say, well, we need to test you for COVID because you ran a fever. And so they test you for COVID, it comes back negative. In this, are they still gonna have to stay out that 7 days, even though it's a sinus infection and the doctor says it's a sinus infection?
No, take 6 days, you see.
And you got a negative test?
Yeah,
It
but
says
you
on
got-
the negative test, you have to stay out 7 days.
It's your sick time.
I thought it said a negative test after 7 days.
Yeah, that's regular check.
So what part of the ERAF do you think needs to be in here?
For certain offices, I guess that last paragraph,
Well, when it says such time will be counted as hours worked and not emergency paid administrative leave, then I think the elected official department head already has the authority to let them work at home if they're actually working. I think they already have that authority. So if they're not gonna use this policy, I think we're good with where we are without putting it on there. Actually, we can put it on there if you want to, but I think we're good
we're
with it.
good there, then I don't think we need anything on ERAF.
Okay, and then we'll just change, we'll change, after we go down for qualifying reasons for leave, and that paragraph below qualifying reasons, in order to receive COVID sick pay, the employee must provide a written medical document from a physician or proof of a positive test to the treasurer's office. Is that it? From a doctor or proof of a positive test. And then we'll, under that last paragraph that starts with the Commissioner's Court revised, we'll take that sentence out. And then the next sentence will be, if an elected official or department head or employee with confirmed COVID-19 or who has been exposed may not come to or remain at work until
Quarantine 10 days.
after testing positive, we leave that in. It tells you when you can come back. Quarantine for 10 days after the first symptom or positive test. and the person has reduced symptoms and been fever-free for 24 hours, or if it's after a close contact, 7 days after close contact, symptom-free, and have negative COVID test for COVID-19. Test performed no earlier than 5 days after close contact. And that will be our beginning working, and if something comes up, then we can amend our policy.
Okay, I got a man wants to come back to work tomorrow, does he have to have a positive, does he have to have a test before he comes back to work, saying he's negative?
How long's he been symptom-free? No fever?
I don't know, that's what I told him over the weekend, I said, you need to be symptom-free,
Yep.
symptom-free,
Was it a
without
close
medication.
contact?
Ma'am,
Was it a close contact with someone that had COVID?
I don't have any idea.
Wasn't
He
he?
had COVID.
I think he was
He
positive.
had COVID.
He had COVID, okay. If he had COVID, did he test positive?
Yeah.
After testing positive, the person is quarantined for 10 days,
Mhm.
starting from the infectious period date, and the person has reduced symptoms and has been fever-free for a minimum of 24 hours, he can return to work.
Okay.
If he,
10 days from the time,
If
10
he
days
tested-
from the time he tested positive, and then, yes.
or had his first symptoms. His date of first symptom or positive test.
I'd say a positive test, because you don't know if you just got a bad cold or if you're regular sick, then you get that test. You don't stay home if you're sick, start with.
Do you want to take out the date of the first symptom or positive test date if the person is asymptomatic? It'd be either from the first symptom or if you took a test, they could be asymptomatic, it would have to start from the test date. Either one, I don't care, just say what.
And that would be the test result day too, right? So if you went and tested, and it took a day or two to get the results back, it'd be
Would be from the test date.
from the test day, okay,
Yeah,
good, yeah, that makes more
10
sense.
10 days from the test date.
because if you didn't get it for 6 days, then.
Yeah, you're just
You
dragging
already
that
got
time
read
out.
that well by then. But, you're right, you don't know, sometimes those symptoms come on, I believe, and you think, well, I've got allergies, or I've got, something else, and then you test and you're positive, so when is your starting date, is what the question is, correct?
Wherever y'all agree.
Judge Grant, one other thing to think about too is that this says full-time employees. I know under the FFCRA, it was full and part-time, and we did have a
Yes.
part-time person that was able to use this. So I think that's something that we may want to look at in
Yes,
this.
and
whether
this
it's
does
full-time.
refer just to full-time employees. So do we want it to be from the first symptom or positive date? Well, over here, after a close contact, and the employee is not tested, then it's day 7 after the close contact exposure, and they have a negative COVID test. But that was a close contact, and the employee was not tested. Back here is after testing, then the person has quarantined for 10 days, starting from either the infectious date or the positive test date.
I'd say the infectious period.
Problem with that is you just don't know when you actually got it.
I'm sorry?
The problem with that is you just don't actually know when you actually got it.
Mm-hmm.
But that paragraph there is for someone who is basically getting tested because they know they're sick. It's not just from an exposure.
Right.
And you think you
That's
get
right.
48 hours, it may incubate in you and then you get sick. So
Whichever is first.
when you feel so bad you can't come to work, that'd be that date. If you wait 2 days to go get tested, then you're 2 days into your 10 days.
Yes.
Okay, we'll start with this, is that correct? Do we have a motion to accept this policy? Or do we have a motion to make, a COVID sick pay policy?
I'll make that motion.
All in favor, aye. Now, we'll go to number 11. Number 11, laptops. There were numerous requests for laptops. When they come in, there were several that we did not have on the list, several offices. So the way they are right now, and this can change, is there is one allocated to the tax office, one to each of the commissioners. If you don't want that, we'll mark your name off. I believe 3 to the sheriff's office, is that right? One to each of the constables, one to the county judge, county clerk, one to each of the JPs, one to the auditor, one to the county attorney, one to the treasurer, one to the district court, one to the district clerk. Is that correct?
One for district clerk, 2 for the court, district court.
2 for the district courts, 1 for the district. And then we will have, are there 6 then that would remain in reserve, and if an office has to close, then they could request the use of those for that, for their employees. And then after they open, then they go back to the auditor's office, so if somebody else has to close, then they would be available for them to use. Is that, but if anybody else thinks that they really need another one for their office, then we can sure talk about that too.
Disinfect it before you bring it back.
Pardon?
I said disinfect it before you bring it back.
Yeah, that's true. And you know, we got these with the COVID money, and we are using them for this purpose. We're gonna start having court, and we're gonna and I know the district court is already having some court, but we'll be setting up a site in the courtroom that the attorney and their employee, the attorney and their defendant can set up in, so then we all would be in our respective offices and do a Zoom meeting to start getting our stuff moving. We've not been able to handle court for quite a while, and we're trying to protect the people, but still move through. We'll have our first one Wednesday afternoon, so we'll see how this is going to work out.
Or me and Andy pick our,
The auditor will have those ready for you. And if you don't, she'll show you how to use it too. And if you don't want to take those, we'll take your names off the list, and they will still be in the reserve for whoever might need another one, or at some point needs several for a while, or whatever.
you got ours in our right now.
With your name on it?
Judge, I know one of the problems.
You can carry that in your vehicle, and you can use through your telephone, you can get service. I didn't say that other word, you know.
You got that computer or your telephone work?
Will it help your phone work?
No,
Okay.
you just out of luck on that.
What I thought it was just your phone work.
No, you can use your phone and your computer will connect to it. Like if you had somebody dumping trash, you could get their number, their license number, and send it to the sheriff's department.
Done deal.
You could just write it down.
You can just, I know, you know what else you can do? You can take a picture of it and send it
That's
to
the
them.
way to do it.
On the computer.
Even,
Really?
you can do a Zoom meeting, you can do a Zoom meeting. All right, that's all.
How
I'm
much is
saying.
it, how much
Got
does
a
it
camera
cost?
on your phone, Chris?
Does it cost anything to have all these computers programmed and all that? Is there a cost that goes with these?
Yes, and that
And how
also
much is
was
that?
paid, that also was paid with the COVID money, and that's already done.
How much is it per
I don't know.
computer?
It was
Anybody know?
$700 and something to put the antivirus software on there and
So-
set them up.
700?
700 something, we've already paid for
For
that.
each, not for each.
Not
computer.
each.
No,
was
no,
All together.
Oh,
no,
That was
for all of
total.
them,
For all
that's
of them.
already done.
So that's already done, and there's no way, no viruses can get on these, they're
Oh my
protected
gosh.
over there.
They can get on
Now, the
there.
only
Oh,
thing
where
that you
to
still
find a
have
way
the
on it?
cost
They're
on,
gonna get on.
Let's go.
the only thing that you still have the cost on that you would have to do is setting up, like, if your department got one, and say for instance, ours has net data on it, we still have to call and get that put on there, and there's a charge for that, so there is still a charge for.
But not everybody's
Not
gonna need
everybody
that.
has
Not
that.
everybody.
That is charges.
Yeah.
Well, net data.
All right.
Judge, do you have any for elections? Is there any of those laptops for elections? I'm just asking.
We could do one.
Oh, we'll discuss that if it's needed.
Yeah, let's do, have you got one already? Didn't we get one?
I've not
It was
received
it
one.
was a desktop, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yes, okay,
Yes.
yeah, sure. Okay.
No, that's why if you set it up to remote into your current PC, then we have it to your current PC. So it doesn't.
Item number
have-
12 is to accept racial profiling report for the sheriff's department. I have it?
No. Oh, you need a racial profile report?
Yeah.
Sorry, I heard like three conversations going at once. Yep, the 2020 racial profiling report is completed, and I'll just read off a couple of the main things that people like to bring up. Of course, we had a lot less stops than normal with COVID going on. We only had 231 stops total. 67 of those 231 were female, 164 of the 231 were male. 65, almost 66% of the people stopped were white. That's 152 of the 231. 56 were black of the 231, and 19 were Hispanic. And then there was four others. So numbers look pretty good. It's completed.
Thank you. We have a motion to accept that.
Didn't want it discussed.
Make it motion, sir.
Make sure that-
Motion to accept the racial profiling report for the sheriff's department. There's a motion and a second. All in favor, aye? Motion carried. Item number 13 is consider the correction of utility charges to precinct 3. I believe that one of the electric bill was charged to precinct 3 was not the electric bill for precinct 3. And it should have been charged to courthouse. And so, and that bill was much higher than his actual bill was. And you've gone back and,
We went back from the time it started, back in 2015, because that's where it was
Good.
put in wrong at the beginning.
okay.
And so we went back all those years and
Mhm.
figured it up, what the difference was, what they should have been charged versus what they were charged, and vice versa,
Yeah.
so.
And you did check with the auditor to be sure there was no problem with doing that, and he said it was.
Yes, exactly, he said that was just fine.
Since the years were closed, we wanted to be sure we were good.
Mhm.
And so that change will be a transfer from the general fund to precinct 3, is that correct?
Yes, be a journal entry.
All right, and how much will that be, 9,000?
9,000 and, I don't even know if I have my papers in here, it's be 9,400 and something dollars. I can go get it if you need the exact
Do we have
amount.
a motion to approve the transfer of the difference, of the overcharge to precinct 3 out of the general
Well, is this $9,400 since 15?
15,
yes.
Is that what it was?
Mhm.
All right.
And we could go back before that, because it could have been from the time that barn was built.
Right, I mean, but we don't have any, I mean, because, you know, we only keep, the retention period is only like 5
Do we have a
years, so-
motion to correct?
Just, because
Lloyd.
I always like to be the new man on the block too.
I'll make the motion.
I second.
All in favor, aye. Motion carries.
I'm mad of it.
Item number 14 is to consider the order authorizing the Texas Independence Day fireworks sale.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor, aye. Motion carried. Item number 15, animal control. All right. This is just a brief job description. Respond to complaints for aggressive and dangerous vicious, okay, we can put that in. I can't find how to spell it. Anyway. Dogs. Conduct preliminary investigations on reports of bites, cruelty, and dangerous or aggressive animals. Issue notices and citations for violations of county and state laws and regulations. This assignment is within the sheriff's office, however, lead assignments may include cross-departmental responsibilities. Will require working day, evening, overnight shifts, and/or weekends, holidays, or extended hours based on optional needs. I'm gonna say and holidays and take the extended hours. And based on operational needs. I know that, the actual statute says that that an animal control officer has to have all of these, classes, unless they're a peace officer. So, but that gives you the opportunity to hire someone and then get the training that they need later, basically is what that is. They don't have to have the training day one. But since they're a peace officer, I don't think those classes are just available all of the time, are they? You just have to be able to schedule for your trainings and whatever they need, just like regular peace officers' trainings. Okay. Is that what we're talking about on the animal control part?
Are you saying we're getting one?
I thought that was gonna be part of the duties for this person that you, health and safety and, is that not?
Oh, I thought we were doing the emergency management coordinator and the dumping for that position.
And is that not gonna be part of it?
I thought it was.
I thought we voted that was the two we was gonna do for now, to see how it was going.
Well, I thought at the end we decided we'd put that in there and then we'd just see which one of those things needed to, well, they're calling y'all right now anyway for it. And so this would be a part of that person's responsibility, and then we'll see if we need to take some of those out, which one, and which ones we need to take out. I could be wrong. Y'all handle all that anyway, don't you, right now?
Yeah, as long as they're dangerous dogs, yes.
Mm-hmm. And that's what we're saying in here, that it is aggressive and dangerous dogs.
So we're just.
Bites, cruelty, and dangerous or aggressive animals.
So basically then, we're just gonna operate as normal.
Pardon?
So basically, we're just gonna operate as normal. Okay.
But technically,
Okay.
we have someone to handle these type of animals.
Yeah, have to get somebody trained. I'd still like to see the county try to get with the local agencies that whoever they use.
And I've talked with some of them, and we might go to that when we see how this works. You know, it depends on if we have to take emergency management out of that, then it may, I don't know.
Okay.
We'll look into that, but they have expressed some, interest in trying to, for us trying to do that. However, I think actually, we'll just have to get with the cities and see. Voting machines, let's go to voting machines. You want to talk about that?
Yes, ma'am. I think in your binders you have a printout of some stuff I had provided. As far as the poll books for ES&S would be programmed separately, that's what Hart did not tell us. They said they would work together. And with talking to one of the gentlemen at Hart that presented, he said that they don't work together. The companies do not allow each other to work together with the poll books. So that's a negative right there. That means we would have to purchase their poll pads, which is not in the quote from from Hart. We have the poll books already.
I thought he said the poll books were standalone anyway.
They are, but they don't
Because
program.
that's just where you check them in.
It also puts all reports and tells you what ballots you get. So if you were to go with Hart's, they have the extra third machine that does what the poll books already does. So therefore you have cost of an extra machine with going by Hart. The poll books help us, which is state mandated, that we report the voter's name every day after election early voting, and that is something that is pulled from the poll books. There is called, what's the system we use? That would be
Central Point?
Central Point. Central Point is where it works with, and ES&S does all the programming. And we take information from who voted off of the poll books and send it in to the state from us. So we have a process we have to process every evening to get those names off. So that would still have to be done. We would still have to program from ES&S to get that reports done. Or you'd have to buy their poll pads. Hart does not use the poll books as they use the poll pads, so I don't know the difference in the pricing of those. I did not get a quote on those. ES&S is quoted as $24,500 trade-in for our old equipment. Hart does not do any trade-in. They will just pick it up, destroy it, and give us a certificate of destruction. ES&S has quoted as 45 express vote machines that cost $3,325 each. Hart quoted us 28 Verity Duo that cost $3,950 each. So we would have to purchase 17 more just to have what we have compatible now. What Hart has quoted us would be have one machine, maybe two at a couple of places, to where some locations right now we have 5 machines. So I don't believe y'all would want to go down to one voting machine per location when we're needing, at some of our locations, we're needing 3 up to 5.
Why did they just quote the 28 when you knew you needed 45?
I didn't speak to them. They said they went by whatever the judge's office told them. So they
said what?
That they went by whatever they talked to by the voting places. I guess y'all told them we had 15 voting locations or something. They were going by just what they were told by the judge's office of how many places we had. They didn't go by how many we used.
But that $39.50, that's before the 25% discount too, isn't it?
Yes. Yes. Yes, it is.
So their machines are only $29.62.50. And ES&S is
That overall
$33.20.
that overall 25% is for everything, not just that.
I know, but at least they would get that 25 off too, 25% off.
We would have to ask if they would, if we buy additional equipment, if they will still do the 25% off, which they may do that. I did not question that.
Okay.
And ES&S has 2 machines, and Hart has 3 machines. And from some of my judges said that's an extra step for them to work at the polling locations. So that was something that I don't see any need in having 3 machines where 2 machines will do the exact job. ES&S uses the same express vote machines for the curbside that you take out. Hart does not have their certification for theirs that they carry out yet, and we must have additional purchase of 1 per location with maybe 1 or 2 extras. So that would be extra costs that we would have to come up with whenever those are approved through the state. ES&S quoted us 19 DS200 scanner tabulators. They cost $5,750 each, which Hart has quoted us 20, and theirs is $6,100.
But that's before the discount.
Yes, ma'am, it is.
Mhm.
ES&S has quoted us for central count equipment, $10,175, and Hart has quoted it as $18,280. There's been a misconception of the OCR, that it, how the ballots are read, and I've attached behind there just some little issues of using the OCR where it's not as recommended as your barcode. Also, Hart said that they were qualified in 2015, and on the Secretary of State's website, I have the website there that it shows that it was 2019 when they were approved. So that was a discrepancy that I wasn't sure about. Also, ES&S's paper has a 7-year life. So Hart did not quote us enough, machines, so if we do choose to go with Hart, we will have a substantial more cost for buying their poll pads and the machines, the ADM machines that go outside. So my recommendation is ES&S. I have used them for all the years that I've even started at the tax office for 20 years. We've used ES&S. Their track record is great. We email them, they're right there. Phone call, they're there. They've helped us through anything we need, and they work very, very well with the programming with me, and that's just my recommendation.
What's your workers think, Linda? After seeing both?
They prefer the ES&S because you have less equipment to work with in the other.
Is that 100% of them?
Oh, no, you're not gonna get 100% of them, no. I didn't get to talk to them all, no. But they were very appreciative to be able to come and see the 2 different stuff, the ones that came.
So is the 287, is that after the discount?
We don't get a discount from ES&S. That is from,
Just for
Hart.
that does take off the 24/5 trade-in for our equipment. That old equipment we have that's traded in.
Was $299, is that with the discount?
Yes, sir. So,
So the 287, you take 2,400,000 off of that?
no, sir, that's already with it off.
That's what, okay,
That's already with it off.
okay.
And does that include all of the equipment that we're gonna need for elections?
It's what we have at this,
ES&S?
yes ma'am, it has equivalent to what we have now. As far as all of the equipment to be able to run the election like we do with the ES&S now, that is what we would need for running an election.
Okay, so we just need the annual,
You would still have to pay your annual maintenance.
maintenance.
Yes, ma'am. And that's included in this first quote on both of them.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions?
Do we decide this today?
You don't have to. If you wanna look over all of the rest of that stuff, we can,
Do we have the money?
we budgeted it.
Still gonna hire an election administrator?
That's gonna be on the next agenda.
Should she be involved in?
I think that's a great idea myself.
All right, do we have a motion to table?
Motion to table?
I'll say.
Pardon?
I'll make a motion to table.
Oh, and we have a second, all in favor, aye. Motion carried. Any comments from Commissioners Court members?
received notice, no, the county received notice that a part-time employee of mine had filed unemployment claims from March 17, 2020. He's still working every day. So either the identity was stolen through the county or somewhere else. I don't, but why the county, I would think it came from here because they're the ones that received the notice. It took a couple of days to get it straightened out. He hopes it's straight. I think Karen hopes it's straight.
There's a lot of,
There's a
We
lot
have
of
had-
crazy stuff going on.
there's a lot of crazy stuff going on.
And we don't have an IT person at all, with the county. When he's got this talking to our banker, I don't know how easy it'd be to get our money.
All right, how hard it will be.
Yeah, or how hard it'd be, I don't know.
Mhm.
If it's easy, that'd be, but,
We do have,
I know we have Will that helps us out, Will Owen. But something to think about down the road.
we do have, the antivirus on our computers, but, yeah, a lot of big companies that have a lot of IT people have been hacked. I don't know what the solution is, other than having the antivirus that we hope will protect us.
There's a mom and pop business here in town, and the husband received a notice that his wife had filed unemployment on the business, and she's working every day. So evidently, it must be pretty easy to do,
Yeah.
Yeah.
especially with a lot of people out of work.
It's, I mean, they sit around and configure this stuff as we get better, on computer.
Firewalls,
Huh?
better firewall.
Yeah, as we get better firewalls, they just figure out ways to break them down. It's gonna be a constant battle. It's never gonna stop. They can get into anything they want as long as they got enough time to try.
And half these people are in another country.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that-
Oh, yeah.
Well, see, now
Probably
you don't,
sitting in
if
his
you're
little
on
dry
employment,
shack,
you don't have to
yeah.
prove your identity, you can do it all online,
Right.
if you're not working.
Right.
So, you need to be aware.
We do need to be aware. All right, anything else?
Make a motion to
Some
adjourn.
fire departments have some fundraisers coming out, I think, due in 2 weeks.
All right. Do we have a second?
Second?
All in favor, aye.